Eve, everyone. Assuming you think, actually, this is something where we can't even agree on this because there are some people, depending on which country you're in, who will think today is Christmas Day. And not just because of time zones. There are some countries who think the 24th is Christmas Day, which means that, tomorrow when it's actually Christmas Day, they'll not think it's that. And then only so many people even do Boxing Day. But there it is. Happy Christmas, whatever you think it is today. I've already had some drama, had a bit of drama, which was actually quite good in a way. The power went off just a few minutes ago. So just as well it didn't happen round about now, because that would have screwed the whole stream over. I would have had to set up a new one. It was, I saw just, little bit of politics just before we begin. So Ed Miliband, a week or so ago, was it? And he was promising, once his energy program's rolled out, no more blackouts, no more power cuts. And I thought to myself, do you know what? 5 or 10 years ago, if Ed Miliband had have said, no, if he'd have been in government then and had said, no more power, I'm going to do this thing, there'll be no more power cuts, I'd have been thinking, we don't really get power cuts very often now. Usually when we get a power cut, it's someone driving into a tree. But these days we do. We get them a lot. I'm not going to pin everything on Brexit, but ever since Brexit, we get quite a lot of power cuts. I've noticed it. They happen regularly. We just had another one 15 minutes ago. But anyway, it is done. Brad there saying this Christmas, Jacob Rees-Mogg will be celebrating the birth of someone who today he'd consider a communist immigrant that should be sent to Rwanda. Yes, exactly. The old Christmas hypocrisy coming out. It actually, do you know what? What genuinely baffles me about Jacob Rees-Mogg. See, Donald Trump, I think he knows he's not a Christian. He knows he's a con man, right? He's not a Christian. But Jacob Rees-Mogg genuinely believes he is. I honestly believe that. I think he genuinely believes he is. And I'd just like to once ask to go down the list of commandments, or even like Jesus' statements in the Gospel of Matthew, for example, or something. And just say to him, what about this then? What about this? What about this? What about this? Because it's baffling to me. I get that there's grifters. I get that there's con men. But it's baffling to me how actual people who genuinely think they're Christian, that really believe it, and must read the scriptures, can behave as they behave. But anyway, there it is. Gary Allen saying the 70s was the time for the power cuts. Well, it's power cuts again now. I don't know if it was as bad as in the 70s. I was far too young to remember. But yeah. Vendetta saying I've had 2 power cuts within the last few months. We've had at least 2 in the last fortnight here. Most of them haven't lasted long. We did have one. No, we've actually had 3 this month. We did have one a couple of weeks ago that knackered my Patreon stream, where it was... and that lasted quite a long time. It just actually blew the whole stream away. But that was caused by the storm. The storm we had, the big storm. Can't remember what it was called. What was it called? But anyway, that knackered it. So we've had a few. Ivan Ambrose, £20 super chat. Thank you very much. Happy Christmas, Phil. Thank you for everything you do for the progressive cause. Not a problem. I was actually just expressing my disappointment on Blue Sky and Twitter. Well, no, just Blue Sky actually, about that. But there we go. It is what it is. Anyway, we've got a bit of a quiz. So you might want to grab yourself paper and pen or whatever if you want to engage in it. They're very easy. They're quizzes I've got from a teaching website. I've not ripped it off or anything. It's all out there for anyone who wants it. But I'll go through that in a little bit. If you get your paper and pens ready, if you want to do it. First thing first, though, I'm just going to have to put up, as it's channel related, before we start getting into the season of goodwill for all. My last little Storm Dara, thank you very much. My last little favourite comment. I'm not going to make a habit of picking on people who write in the comments, by the way, but this one was quite good. So, from someone called Timmy ETO, a simple experiment proves that Phil blocks comments. I don't block comments, by the way. Anywhere on social media, anywhere. But anyway, a simple experiment proves that Phil blocks comments from people that don't agree with him. Naughty list for you, Phil, and a bit sad. But of course, the comment is there to be replied on, to which I did reply, pointing out that the problem with a strategy like this, if you're trying to prove someone blocks comments, is if I was in the habit of blocking comments, no one would see it. But if I don't block comments, I don't, then it's there for everyone to see and you look like a right tit. YouTube blocks comments. YouTube puts them in a thing, but I don't. The only time I ever do anything, because I'm actually quite liberal. I'm actually very liberal in terms of what I think is fine for people to say, even if I don't agree with it. The challenges are spamming. If someone spams, and I mean repeats the same thing, literally the same thing over and over again, then I don't block the comment. I block them, and I always give them warning before I do it. The only things I don't give warning for, if someone's trying to link to dodgy websites, or if they're and I mean proper threatening, like hate speech, then if I see that, I'll block that as well. Anthony Fisher, £5 super chat, thank you, says, Merry Christmas, thank you for all your hard work you put in this year. Don't think could have made it to 2025 without Uncle Phil and Graham. Oh, that's nice. But there we go. Right. Anyway, we'll get rid of that. So, first quiz. I'm just going to put up all the questions. This is a general knowledge quiz. And it was designed to be multiple choice. But do you know what? All the questions are actually quite... I think it's designed for teenagers. So they're quite... I'm not saying teenagers are ignorant, by the way. But I think it is designed just for a bit of fun in school. So they're quite easy. But there might be a couple of obscure ones in it. So you might not get 12 out of 12. So here are the questions, and I'll put up the answer. I'll go through the answers a bit later on, so you've got plenty of time. Don't be looking up on the... You're only cheating yourself if you look it up on the internet, because there's no prizes. But the first one is, what colour are the berries of the... I put barrows for some reason there. Sorry, I was rushing. Berries of the mistletoe plant. What is the name? Number 2, what is the name of the period leading up to Christmas? 3, who wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas? 4, Santa's home, the North Pole, is located in which ocean? 5, Christmas Day 2024 will be on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. What day will it be in 2028? Santa Claus is also known as Saint who? 7, I'll leave this up, by the way. You don't have to write it all down now. London's Trafalgar Square is given a Christmas tree by which country? 8, which of the wise men was said to bring the gift of gold? 9, good King Wenceslas, who wasn't a king. He got a royal title after his death, after he was like sanctified or whatever you call it, but he wasn't a king. But anyway, he was a good bloke apparently. But from which modern country was he from? Which Christmas word stems from the Greek for circle dance? I didn't know this one, by the way. This was actually a new one to me. Which family provides the most characters in A Christmas Carol? And final one, how many points does a snowflake have? And they're saying, I think you might have missed me asking earlier, but would you like me to email you my ghost story? You can do if you like. I may pass it on to one of my stepdaughters who might be interested. I'm not really one for the ghost stories myself. But there we go. Mark saying, can't remember having a power cut in 16 years living in Switzerland. Yeah, we did before. Honestly, I'm not going to say it's all down to Brexit. It might have been, happening over like the last 5 years, but it's noticeable in the last few years. It's very noticeable that we get power cuts where I am. And it wasn't the case before. Before, the only time I used to get a power cut was when I was unemployed and occasionally didn't keep up with the electricity bills. And sometimes the power would just cut out then. Or, if you had at one point I lived in a place that had a prepayment meter, which was when I was actually working, but obviously a previous occupant had struggled as well. So that would sometimes just go off if I wasn't paying attention to it. So I've never, but it was very rare to get an actual power outage that would affect the street. Whereas now, honestly, I mean, particularly in winter, it just happens all the time. The answer, no. It's number 10 is a Christmas word. But there we go. I'll leave this up for a couple more minutes, and then I'll take it down. We'll go through. There is a politics. This is the general knowledge one, you see. So I'll go with the answers later. There is a politics one. It's mostly easy. In fact, it's quite weird. It's a weird mixture between very easy questions, which I expect you all to get, and very obscure questions where I totally understand if you get none of them. I assume the power cuts because of privatisation. So I don't know for certain, which is why I'm not going to do the old, oh, it's Brexit thing. However, I do note that this is something that's been noticeably happening over the last few years since we left the EU. And I will also note that, of course, we are no longer really, we don't have very good access to the European grid. See, we used to be, the single market covers a lot of things, including energy. So we no longer have easy access to Europe, European energy at certain times, because that's, the larger the power grid, the easier it is to shift things about. And it will be to do with cost. So it may not be directly to do with privatization, because even a non-privatized energy sector would still want to think about costs. What will be when it's like a quick power cut, just like a few seconds, it is, of course, where they haven't provided enough supply, and then there's like a spiking demand which they didn't quite expect. And this is normal. You don't want to, because the electricity on the grid, you either use it or lose it. It's not really stored. And so when you've got, if you suddenly have extra demand, like Christmas Eve, maybe they didn't, there was a larger number of people just turning all the lights on or stuff like that earlier or something. But it will be caused by trying to keep down costs, trying to have as little energy as possible to meet what you expect the demand to be. And because they sail closer, I suspect they sail close to the wind these days than they used to. So this is what keeps happening. So it may be that. But there we go. Right, so I'll get rid of these comments now. Where have we gone? And you can put these in the chat. There's no point those ones in the chat. You just have to mark your own work when I go through the answers later on. Says, well, the UK, I think that might be, will the UK ever rejoin the EU, or will the country break up before that happens? Well, even if it does, we'll still join the EU. It'd be quite hilarious if the UK actually broke up. I mean, obviously Northern Ireland would naturally become a member of the EU, because Northern Ireland, it's not a choice of Northern Ireland being on its own or part of the UK. It's a choice of whether it's part of the UK or part of a reunified Ireland. So if it became part of a reunified Ireland again, it automatically becomes an EU member again, or part of an EU member, not on its own. If like England and Scotland broke up, then it would be quite hilarious, because I will bet you anything, not anything, I will bet you my left buttock, which is the good one, that whatever you call what's left, like England and Wales together or whatever, and Scotland, will probably just both join on the same day. That'll be what happens. We'd still join. We're going to join. Doesn't matter whether it happens before or after the breakup of the UK. We'll all join again. We'll be back together. Because literally the only thing that can stop us is the Daily Express's like constant dream of the EU actually breaking up. I mean, one day the EU might break up. Who knows? But if it doesn't, and at the moment it's not breaking up, if it doesn't, then inevitably we're going to rejoin. I mean, there's going to come a point where all the levers are basically dead. There'll be no one left to bang the drum for staying out of the EU. Darren there, thank you. £20 super chat says, Merry Christmas. Thank you for all your work. You provide information and comment over 2024. Enjoy your cheese and biscuits. I will enjoy. I've got the good Stilton. I've got some nice pâtés lined up as well. So I will be enjoying my cheese and biscuits. But anyway, right. First question on the politics one. I will remind you, I just grabbed these off like a teaching website. They're not difficult. But the first one, I can't read that. I've got my screen too small because I've got so many slides to put in. Right. So the first one is, I think that should say, Labour's education policy at the 2024 general election included which proposal? It's either A, removing tax exemptions for private schools, B, expanding grammar schools nationwide, C, introducing a graduates tax, and D, increasing funding by cutting the defence budget. So what do we think on that? I'll give it a moment and see what will come out in the chat. This should be an easy one, by the way. I'm very disappointed people don't get this right. England and Wales, Wangland, yes, yes. I think Graham Hughes pushes that one a lot. Wangland. I mean, at least it might mean a redesign of the flag, because I'll tell you what, one of the biggest crimes in this country, like in terms of political crimes, is the fact that we do not have the Welsh dragon centre stage and the Union flag. You know, people in Wales. I was reading something actually about Wales, and you know, someone comment, and one of the things coming up was, you know, Wales, of course, is not represented in the Union flag, and I think it's not just, you know, disgusting from a point of view of, yeah, Wales are completely unrepresented in our national flag. It's the fact that who doesn't want a dragon on their national flag? Like, who made the decision? Like, there must have been a committee meeting at some point. I mean, we've had two versions of the Union flag. We had the Union flag on the Union of England and Scotland, and then then it was redesigned to incorporate the Cross of St. Patrick when Ireland didn't exactly join, did it? Didn't really have much choice, but, you know, was acquired, shall we say. And so there must have been two completely separate meetings at least, where someone must have said, should we put the Welsh dragon on? And some other tits must have gone, no, why would we put a dragon on our flag? Because it looks incredibly cool, that's why. The best flag, the best individual national flag, and we don't include it. It's mad to me. Mad. Anyway, the correct answer to this one is indeed A, removing the exemption, removing a tax exemption for private schools, in this particular case in the form of VAT, of course. Next one we'll put up. This is, I can't read it on there. Hang on. This is one of the obscure ones, sorry. What was the size of Labour's majority following the 2024 general election? It's not the same majority as it has now, by the way, because we've binned a few MPs. One resigned and several others had the whip removed. So it's not quite the same as it is now, but at the point at which we had the general election at any rate. Or even including the St. David's Cross. No, I suppose. But the dragon's much cooler. We want the dragon. I just don't understand. I can't get the logic. I honestly can't get the logic of who thinks, no, we shouldn't have a dragon on the flag. Like, who thinks that? There will be other countries that have tried desperately to work out some way of incorporating a dragon, and are allowed to do it. Wales was absorbed by England in the 13th century, long before the Union flag was designed. Yeah, true, but still, it's still like a nation. And in fact, I mean, before that, of course, Wales stretched across. I think where I live was part of Wales at one point. Wales cut England in two at one point, didn't it? I think that's a long time ago. But either way, it should still have been incorporated. But anyway, so we've got several questions here. People are, you know, there's some B's and there's some C's. It is actually C. There's 174 seats, majority. It's huge majority. Absolutely massive majority. So, yeah. Right, that is that one. Let us go through number 3. Which one is this? Who resigned as leader of the SNP in May 2024? You can't get this wrong. This is too disappointing if you get this wrong. Say the dragon is there just camouflaged in the red cross. No one believes that, because the dragon would be bigger than any of the red bits of the flag. Even if you made it quite small. I mean, it shouldn't be that small. So I don't know. I'm not buying that. It should be right there. In fact, it shouldn't even just be superimposed in the middle. They should have the dragon in the middle with like a halo of white around it, and then bits. I'm going to design it at one point to show you what I mean. Not now. And bits of the other crosses just around the outside of that halo. That would be the best flag ever. Oh, should have the Welsh flag as the primary and Union flag in the corner like Australia or New Zealand. I think people might object to that. I think there's a better way to do it. I'm going to work on it. My Photoshop skills are not amazing, but I think I can stretch to doing what I'm thinking of. So I will do it. Says that was the early Middle Ages, Phil. Yes. Think it was Mercia. Yes, I think so too. So we've got a lot of people. I don't think anyone's got it wrong. Oh no, someone's got it wrong. No, it was Humza Yousaf. He resigned. Nicola Sturgeon, it is true, also resigned as leader of the SNP, but that was before. That was a year before. So the resignation of the SNP this year was Humza Yousaf. But there we go. Right, next one. Oh, what's this? Hang on. Who did Starmer appoint as Home Secretary in July 2024? Again, should be an easy one, this one. But we will see. Okay, there's now a discussion about how England and Wales looked in the Middle Ages. I'm not an expert on it myself, so I'll believe everything you say. Ivan there saying, I can't believe Boris Johnson was on the naughty list from the video earlier, also Liz Truss. Well, this is why I said it would have been interesting to see a top 20. Because, to be fair, I can understand Boris Johnson and Liz Truss not being... I mean, it was only the top 6 that we saw in the poll. And I can understand that because, in a way, and they won't like it, it basically means they're irrelevant. So neither Boris Johnson nor Liz Truss are popular. It's just that they're not seen as relevant anymore. So that'll be why they're not in there. I mean, who have you got in that top 6? Donald Trump and Elon Musk, of course. I mean, Donald Trump is not liked in this country, even amongst the right wing. There's not many people approve of Donald Trump in this country. Elon Musk, I think a lot of that stems from the fact that after the summer riots, the chief focus of people's blame was actually social media. A lot of people really felt that, that, which I didn't actually. I didn't think it was chiefly responsible because a lot of people put emphasis on the fact that disinformation, the lies, and they were lies. It wasn't a mistake. No one made an honest mistake. It was lies about the murderer, the Southport murderer. But my attitude to that is, what if it were true? Would that have justified the riots? Let's say it were an asylum seeker as opposed to a British-born citizen. Let's say it were an asylum seeker from the Middle East. Would that have justified the riots? The answer is no. So the fact that, yes, people should be punished for the disinformation, and they're not being, but the fact that disinformation sort of lit the spark is to my mind a side issue, because even if it hadn't been disinformation, even if what was being claimed was true, it wouldn't have justified the behaviour. But nonetheless, a lot of the public thought that social media was primarily responsible, and Twitter, of course, was the worst offender, and of course Elon Musk was very much behind it. So it doesn't surprise me that Elon Musk was on that naughty list very high up. Nigel Farage, again, not a very popular chap. He's wildly popular amongst a certain section of the population and absolutely hated. Like, you get some people and it's like, there'll be some people who like them, and the rest of people, it's like, well, I don't really like them, but you don't hate them either. Whereas Nigel Farage really is a love-hate. He's a Marmite character, proper Marmite character. Except Marmite's nice, so I don't really want people associating with Marmite. It'd be like tobacco Marmite. I wouldn't touch that. And then Keir Starmer, of course, he's at the end of the day, he's the Prime Minister while life is still shit. But it's not even just that. He shouldn't have been on that list. That's his fault for not taking. I mean, yes, you have to be prepared to do some unpopular things early in a parliament, but he just went mad. It was a bit, it's like, it's not even like it. I think this is actually the case. He doesn't consider popularity to be a guiding principle at all, and it's like, you're a politician, mate. And then, of course, Rishi Sunak as well. Sorry, was on there. Again, no one's going to forgive him too quickly. And then Piers Morgan, because he's, I can't actually use the word on here. I'll get demonetised. So we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, how did we do on this one? Someone has said so Diane Abbott was a shadow Home Secretary quite a few years ago now. But it is indeed Yvette Cooper, which most people have said there. Next one up. Don't worry, we've still got plenty of time to go. I'm not doing this one in half an hour. What's this one? Let's see. Who was deputy leader of the Liberal Democrats at the 2024 general election? So you've got A, Tim Farron, B, Daisy Cooper, C, Layla Moran, D, Ed Davey. I will accept a few people getting this one slightly wrong because the Lib Dems, remember, are invisible between elections as far as the media are concerned. Brad saying the most disgusting thing about Yusuf resigning was that Phil claimed he had an award-winning video which he had to bin when the news spread. I was only joking. But I did have to bin a video when it happened. Because occasionally that sometimes happens. You know, you have some mad... Phil, how come no one's been charged for inciting it? That is what I would like to know. That is what I would like to know. Even the fella who got bricked in the Ghoulies has been sentenced to like 2.5 years in prison. Do you know what? Out of all the people actively involved in the riot, in his case, I'll be honest, look, if the judge had said, look, mate, you're guilty, you're going to have a conviction now, but I think you've suffered enough, I'm going to give you a suspended sentence, I wouldn't have complained in the slightest. Because I think he's been humiliated. No one enjoys getting a brick. He had a brick lobbed at his head and his ghoulies by his own mates, by his own compadres, his fellow brown shirts. Do you know what? And I don't know, I didn't follow the case. I don't know exactly what he was charged with. But unless he'd actually done something like kick someone's wall in, which some did, some people did. I mean, those bricks came from people's walls because some people kicked them in. So unless there was evidence he'd done that, or he'd been like actually assaulting some people, I would have just let him off with a suspended sentence, to be honest. Yeah, all we've had so far, people who were stupid enough to get themselves filmed attending a riot have been imprisoned. People who called for the murder of people in hotels, some of those have been sentenced to prison. Absolutely, as far as I can tell, absolutely nobody who orchestrated any of it has even been charged, as far as I know. And I'm pretty sure I would know if it happened because it was... I'm sure it would be big news if someone who was actually behind the attacks in any form. Remember, the only person who was ever even arrested was Bernie Spofforth for providing the original. She says she didn't provide the original, but she did. Providing the original source of, or the major. I mean, someone else may have done it before her, but she was the one who really got this disinformation out, and she wasn't charged in the end. So absolutely no one behind them has been charged, much less convicted. What was that video on? I don't know. In all honesty, I wouldn't remember all this time later. I mean, it was months ago. Apparently he sank 10 pints and a litre of rum before rioting. No. You wouldn't feel anything, would you? He clearly felt the brick in the ghoulies on the head. He reacted to them. I mean, first of all, if you sink 10 pints of beer and a litre of rum, I don't think you could even stand upright. I mean, even in my drinking days, that was a bit beyond the pale. I don't think I would have ever done anything that mad. I once downed a pint of spirits and was up all night giggling like an idiot. But anyway, he was trying to organise and incite the other writers. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough then. Just another brick in the balls. Yes, very good. Anyway, on to this question. What did we have? Oh, everyone's getting it right, I think. Most people are anyway. It is indeed Daisy Cooper. Yeah, Daisy Cooper there. Where are we? Next one. Where's the next slide? Oh, it's easy. Who was the UK's first female Chancellor of the Exchequer? Should look at his links with this specific misinformation. Should look at links with this specific misinformation. What was that? Sorry. Am I missing a comment about something? Absolutely possible to drink that much and still be up. Well, I'll take your word for it. I think anyone who does that's got a bit of a death wish. I mean, like, why would you even want to? Why would you even want to? Like, I understand what it's like to drink to excess. Like, when I was young, I did. I don't anymore. I don't really drink. There's no point. I grew up. But, you know, I can get people drinking a bit too much. But, like, you know, the effort that would be required to drink 10 pints of beer. I mean, how would you have even got to the front lines anyway? You'd be needing a piss every 2 minutes. And a litre of rum. I'll take your word for it that some people can do it. But I just think that's a bit mental. Anyway. Is the UK ungovernable at this point with refusal to make the difficult decisions needed? Well, when you say difficult decision, I mean, that sort of is. What do we mean by difficult decisions? Are difficult decisions just those where there is no good decision and you are going to annoy people, whatever you decide? Or is a difficult decision doing something that is the clearly correct decision for the country, but not what the public think is the correct decision? Because, you know, I think there is a difference there. If it's the latter, then yes. You know, the country is badly misinformed by the media, much worse than I think it's ever been before. And, you know, we've got... So, yeah, you know, there's in terms of a lot of key areas, we've not got a lot of honesty in the media and therefore not in politics either. So the answer to this one, yes, Rachel Reeves. Who said Margaret Thatcher? Behave yourself. No, in fact, Margaret Thatcher, her only position in government was as Prime Minister. She had no other. She was she? She was Shadow Education Secretary. Was she Education Secretary in Ted Heath's government, maybe? I don't remember. Maybe she was. But anyway, she was not Chancellor. Ever. This one... Oh, hang on. Who did Kemi Badenoch appoint as Shadow Chancellor? Rishi Sunak, Mel Stride, Jeremy Hunt, or Robert Jenrick? Robert Jenrick's been a very naughty boy. He has been expressing his support for very, very unpleasant far-right Twitter accounts. But there we go. Oh, Louise is saying education. Okay, fair enough. I knew she was Shadow Education Secretary, but then it just occurred to me maybe she was Education Secretary during Heath's government, before they fell out. Could I tell you if I received my email? Not quite yet, because I haven't got a load of things turned on, I'm afraid. I've turned off a lot of the internet because I'm now in the season of goodwill to all at the moment, which means looking at messages, political messages, is not really my thing now. Hoping Phil doesn't have to take a wheel of cheese and knackers over Christmas. Be nice to your wife. I'm always nice to my wife. We never argue. We just invariably agree that on one point or other, each of us is right at different points. It is indeed Mel Stride. Well done. Absolutely. Number 8. Can I read this yet? Not quite, no. So Labour won 411 seats with 33.7% of the vote in 2024, up from 202 seats in 2019, but with what percentage of the vote? This is in 2019. This is a very good question because it points out how ridiculous a first past the post system is. So in at least some classrooms in the last week, some students inevitably will have been going through this quiz, and the teacher will have been able to use it to show just how ridiculous first past the post is. She was both Education and Science Minister under Heath. Oh, there we go. Well, she was a scientist, to be fair. Thatcher, the Snatcher Education Secretary. Yeah, she became a Snatcher as Prime Minister. I actually remember... something changed with me, actually, as well. So I remember the milk, because I'm old enough to remember getting the milk, the pint of milk, at primary school. And I remember liking it. You can't imagine that these days, can you? An actual full bottle of milk, a pint of milk, part way through the day. Here you go, get that milk down you. And I remember that going. But what's really weird is I don't like milk anymore. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Makes me gip. Everyone is saying it is C. Yes, 32.1% indeed. Yes, very good. It's quite an obscure one. But yeah, so so a share of the vote only slightly smaller than the one they got this year. But it shows you just with the first past the post system how focused you have to be on key voters. It's part of the game. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be part of the game. You should just be able to, attract votes wherever you can. That's the way it is. So you get 32.1% of the vote. You get 202 seats because if you have a scattergun approach to it. If you get 33.7% of the vote, an extra 1.6%, you get a massive majority. Absolutely huge majority. Proportional representation, I think, is the order of the day. Oh, hang on a minute, I'll put it on. What question are we on? Hold on. What was that? No, I've done that one. This one. I'm trying to get this. What is it? Oh, so who of the following is not a current... There's a few questions like this. Who is not a current Green Party MP? So you've got a choice of Carla Denyer, Caroline Lucas, Adrian Ramsey, Sean Berry. It wasn't a pint, it was a small bottom. I older than you. Well, I mean, I was quite young. It seemed like a pint bottle to me. Maybe it wasn't then. Maybe I'm just making it up. But I do remember having the bottle of milk. I mean, I was quite small. Maybe it just seemed like a pint. Oh, I think it was a third pint triangular carton. No, we got bottles. Oh, it was definitely bottles. We put a straw in it and everything. And I remember the milk crates coming round, the crate of the bottles, around the primary school. Starmer rushing PR3. Yeah, I don't see any sign of him doing that. I do hope that it is on the horizon, but I'm not that hopeful that it's going to be, that the horizon is very close, put it that way. And they say, I only got as high as D. My GCSE maths, circulating random percentages, never my strong point. Of course, I understand the principle and basics. If you have half of 100, you have 50%. Well, you're already better than some Tories. I think it was Ken Clarke, who's not exactly one of the dumbest Tories, he said at one point, I think it was him, like, don't quote, there was definitely a senior Tory MP, who said that they were amazed that 50% of people get less than average results. And like, it was some education policy he was remarking on. And it's absolutely disgusting. There's like 50% of people or 50% of kids get less than the average on this thing. And it's like, hey, that's how, what? That's how it works. That's what average means. Anyway. It is indeed Caroline Lucas, which is a shame. I liked Caroline, mostly. Yeah, a bit of a loss. Never mind. I mean, she had a good run. I mean, and she chose her own exit. She would have won again. Right, so, next one, more contentious. Labour. Which of the following is not... hang on. I've got the wrong one. Is that... I'm trying to read it. I'm going to get the right bloody thing up. I think I've got these in the wrong order. Which of the following is not a current Labour MP? Is a current Labour MP, sorry. Zara Sultana, Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell, Diane Abbott. Contentious there, because they all were. And they are all still in Parliament. But only one of them is a Labour MP. Do you remember milk monitors? I don't remember milk monitors. If that was a thing in Britain ever, I don't remember it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. It was a very long time ago. I remember the milk. I don't remember anyone being permanently assigned to the job. No, it is. So there's a bit of a mix here, but most people are getting it right. It is indeed Diane Abbott. Jeremy Corbyn, of course, has not been a Labour MP for some time, and he did not even stand for Labour in the election. Zara Sultana and John McDonnell had the whip removed when they voted against the government whip on the two-child cap thing. And Diane Abbott was not around at the time. She said she would have voted against it or voted in favour of whichever one. I think it was a motion in favour against the government. She would have voted against the government, she said, had she been around, in which case she wouldn't have been a Labour MP either. And then I think we've got one last one on this one, because there's only 11 on here. Oh, that's because I missed one out. That's why I got confused here when I was reading down. I've missed one out. Doesn't matter. Because there should be 12. So which of the following is a current Conservative MP? Penny Mordaunt, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Jeremy Hunt, Liz Truss. John said, I tweeted Zara Sultana would one day join Reform, got a hell of a pile on from tankers. Yeah, I suspect she wouldn't, in all honesty, if I'm honest. But I'll tell you what I found interesting when Diane Abbott recently, might have been yesterday or the day before, and again, I was commenting on this on Blue Sky. So you've got some people. This is why people who say, and I said this on Blue Sky, I'll say it again, even if it upsets some people. You know, people who say, for example, that they oppose capitalism, they're never going to oppose capitalism. The reason is capitalists are sort of united, plus they've got all the money to be able to pay for the propaganda and everything else. So the only thing anti-capitalists have got is numbers. But we never make those numbers because the left is full of people who spends more time and energy hating on people who have similar views but not identical views to them than they do people with polar opposite views. So you have Diane Abbott, who at every given opportunity attacks the Labour Prime Minister, who has just increased public sector pay above the rate of inflation for the first time in God knows how long. Minimum wage, same thing. It increased, you know, massively boosted the number of pensioners on pension credit, which is worth thousands a year. Massive boost to the fund to tackle homelessness, funds for hospices, end-of-life hospices, getting rid of no-fault eviction, so increasing renters' rights, increasing workers' rights, all of this stuff, taxing whenever she can, and yet she was laughing and joking with a Reform UK guy the other day, someone who is very strongly anti-immigration and backing a racist party. That's all I will say. That's all I will say. Anyway, this one, his seat is Jeremy Hunt indeed. He won his seat. He won it by being a bit selfish, it has to be said, but fair play, he did win it. He was not expected to win. It was a prime Lib Dem target seat, but because Jeremy Hunt abandoned the national campaign and just slogged his guts out in his own constituency, he won. The others did not. Liz Truss lost. Jacob Rees-Mogg lost. Penny Mordaunt lost. Penny Mordaunt and Jacob Rees-Mogg were really nailed on to lose, I think. There we go. So some on the left hate Stalin more than they hate the Tories or Reform. It's bizarre, but it is the way it is, and it's the way it's always been. You know, people on the left are more. I mean, when you talk about the intolerance of the right wing, there's more intolerance on the left, because the right wing are, of course, intolerant of a great many people, probably the majority of their own population, but they are at least mostly tolerant of one another, or they at least find common cause. Whereas on the left, they don't. They're hideously intolerant. Massively intolerant. And it's just depressing. How long are we going to run the stream, Phil? Probably about another 15 minutes. We've done that one. I will now go over the answers to the general knowledge one. Because we should. So let's see if I can I read that? I might be able to read it here, actually. Let me just see. Hold on. No, I can't quite. The problem, my screen where I'm looking at it myself has to be quite small because I've got a lot of slides in here. So first one is, what colour are the berries on the mistletoe plant? They are, of course, white. What's the name of the period leading up to Christmas? It is Advent. Who wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas? It's Dr. Seuss. Santa's... Oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, the Santa's home, North Pole, located in which ocean? That would be the Arctic Ocean. Can't quite read the next one. Christmas Day 2024 is on Wednesday. What day will it be in 2028? There's a leap year in the way, so it'll be a Monday. Santa Claus is also known as Saint Nicholas. London's Trafalgar Square is given a Christmas tree by which country? Norway. That was actually a bit political this year, wasn't it? Because a load of bigots on Twitter were putting pictures up of the Norwegian Christmas tree and talking about it being like a woke tree or something like that, not not always doesn't look like a Christmas tree, and it's because it's decorated in the Norwegian style, which looks very different to the way we mostly decorate Christmas trees in this country. But it is the way it's always been. And people were, showing photos of what this, not the same tree obviously, but the Trafalgar Square tree looked like when Boris Johnson was mayor of London and the Conservatives were in government. And it's the same. It's because it's just, but it's just how people are. They don't go to Trafalgar Square. They don't know anything about it. Then they suddenly see a tree like that. Oh, that looks a bit weird. Oh, it's probably done to satisfy the Islamists. That's what it'll be. And then they go off on one, not realising, no, mate, that's just how Norwegians do it. And we've been gifted the tree from Norway. Or Norwegia, as they would probably call it. Anyway, that's a little rant. Which of the wise men was said to bring the gift of gold? I think that was Melchior. 9. Good King Wenceslas was from which modern country? I think someone said that much earlier on. It is indeed the Czech Republic these days. Who said blue for... No, it's white for mistletoe. Where are we now? Oh, this is a new one on me. I didn't know this. I haven't checked it, but as it's on a teaching website, I'm going to assume it's true. It says, which Christmas word stems from the Greek for circle dance? Apparently, it's carol. Christmas carols. Circle dance. This is an interesting one. Didn't know that. Which family provides the most characters in a Christmas carol? It is, of course, the Cratchits. They provide quite a lot of them, in fact. They probably outnumber all the other characters put together, even if you include the ghosts. Czechia actually changed its name. I think we still call it the Czech Republic, though, don't we? Czech Republic. Do we? Am I not caught up? Would Bohemia count for Wenceslas? Well, I did say modern. I mean, obviously, the map of Europe will have changed a great deal in the intervening period, because it's a very long time ago. Apparently, I mean, he wasn't a king, just to be clear. He wasn't a king. Apparently, he was given a royal title when he was declared, because he was declared a saint immediately because he was such a good chap. So he was immediately declared a saint when he died. And apparently, for some reason, was given a royal title posthumously. But I still don't think that royal title was king. But it's, it's a nice song anyway. And finally, how many points does a snowflake have? It has 6. Oh, they prefer Chechnya now. Well, they don't speak English, so do they really? Is it like one of these things where... Do they specifically prefer English people to say Chechnya rather than Czech Republic? It is a republic still. I don't understand. But okay, I will look it up then. I don't wish to offend. But I'd not heard that one. I wonder what could have changed the map of Europe. Can't think of anything. Well, yeah, it might have been the fact that we had constant war in Europe, constant war for like literal centuries, until the formation of the precursor to the EU, which then, I mean, that was the whole point of the EU and its forebears. Of course, it was always intended to become what is now the EU from the start. And it was intended as a peace project, of course. But, some people will say to me, why do I just focus on the economic arguments? And it's because they're the only ones that people care about in this country. I suspect in a lot of countries, if I'm honest. I suspect in a lot of countries now. I think... saying, they have changed their name officially. Oh, well, I will look up a map then. That's more Graham's area. Yeah, I sort of knew Czechoslovakia broke up. I'm up with that. My geography's not that bad. Isn't a snowflake a fractal? But it still has 6 points on it. If you look at any snowflake under a microscope, you will still see 6 points. 6 major segments. But is... I forgot what I was saying now. Someone saying that Wenceslas was a duke. Yes. He was defenestrated by his brother, I think. Okay. I don't know all the details. I know that he was generally considered to be, like in the song, although the carol, I'm sure, is embellishing a few things, but I gather he was kind to the poor. Or maybe he was just kind by the standards of most feudal lords at the time. I don't know. But there we go. But yeah, no, I mean, oh, that was it, the EU. So the precursors to the EU was absolutely intended as a peace project, and it's worked because no members of this common bloc, like the major, I mean, we have war in Europe right now, yeah, and we have had it. You know, we had it. I mean, we had the breakup of Czechoslovakia, for example, and we've also had, you know, we had Bosnia and Serbia having a bit of a Barney. But in terms of the members of this group, like the major powers of Europe, we at any one time there was sometimes a few years of genuine peace in Europe, but generally speaking, at any one time, two or more of the following countries would be at war with each other: Britain, France, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Belgium. When that was created, obviously that was created out of a war. Belgium was created to separate two other nations from each other who could otherwise not be relied upon to not have another Barney. But there we go. But there we go. Oh, no, John's confusing the issue. You can still say Czech Republic. Czechia is used for cultural events. Czech Republic for official state event. That just sounds confusing. I'm just going to look it up. I will look it up. The country must have an English version of their tourist website. So I'll just look it up on there. And that'll be easy. Greece and Turkey had a war in the 1970s, but Turkey's not a member. Between the members of it. It doesn't stop all wars. But it did stop wars between those members. And the reason it stopped wars between those members is because it built up trade routes that were so essential, that were so essential to their economy, that only a madman would want to break those trade routes. Who would guess that decades later, people in the UK would choose to break those trade routes? Yes, I know it was mostly England, to break those trade routes without even wanting a war. Like, we chose to break our huge, efficient trading block, and we didn't even want to go to war for it. Mad. Frank, they're saying, yes, today is Christmas in Germany, so Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. I know in a few other Northern European countries it's also Christmas today, because I've done enough online gaming in my time to have come across quite a lot of people from like other Northern European countries who always start a fight at this time of year going, oh, I celebrate Christmas today. It's like, okay. Do you know what? I celebrate Christmas practically all of December, which is why I don't get on the scales until like February now. But there we go. So it's all done. We don't have wars between member states anymore. So the more member states there are, the better. And there it is. Define what constitutes a point on a snowflake. So you look at a snowflake, you give it to a child and you say, how many points has it got? That's how we define it. Boris considered war with the Netherlands. Yeah, he did. Yes, that's true. He boasted about the fact. It's bad enough he did it, but he boasted about the fact that he thought about invading the Netherlands. At the same time, that still wouldn't have counted because we weren't an EU member at the time. So actually, that would have just proven what a good peace project Brexit was, because the second a member state left, it instantly declared war on a member state. Wouldn't that just be it? That would be it. Britain's no longer a serious country, being the only G7 country shortly to have no substantial primary steel industry. So-called green steel is small and based on recycling. It is, yes, it is true. I mean, the thing is, and I don't know what the economics of this are. I assume they're pretty bad. So I mean, first of all, we don't really have much steel making in this country at all anyway. It's been whittled down. You've basically got Port Talbot and Scunthorpe, really. And so, for those who don't know, we're getting rid of blast furnaces. Obviously, kick out a huge amount of carbon. But I'm not an expert, But I am under the impression that it is possible to create virgin steel that is from the raw ingredients of like iron ore, coke, and other bits and pieces without a blast furnace. Like, I think there is a modern way of doing it. It may be that it's very expensive to set up, and that might be the reason why we're not doing it. But I think there is a way to create steel, like on an industrial level, without a blast furnace these days. Is this one what the Netherlands has? I'm pretty sure somewhere in Europe produces steel but doesn't use a blast furnace. But I'm just going to guess it's just too expensive. But it is. I think it's a bad decision, really. Even if we had to just keep a blast furnace. As far as I'm concerned, steel is vital for national security. We cannot rely on steel from other parts of the country for at least certain things. Arc furnaces, all they do is recycle steel. So you're limited in what you can produce with them. You're very limited. But it is what it is. It's been done. There we go. Let's get on with it. Induction smelting needs a lot of electricity. Yes, it does. Although we're not going to have very many arc furnaces, so it's not going to make much of a dent. It's the move to electric cars that's going to have the biggest demand on electricity supplies, which is why we need huge amounts of low carbon energy being produced locally as well as sort of larger plants, I suppose. But there we go. Maybe we can get the guy that grows concrete on trees to solve the steel problem. Yeah. I strongly suspect he will not solve it. But we could give him a go. Why not? We could give him a go. Oh dear. Oh, we're going to have a disagreement here, I'm afraid. It says socialism has a very specific definition. The economy under direct democratic worker control. There's no scale. Completely untrue. Sorry, that is completely untrue. Socialism absolutely has a scale. Also, there's nothing democratic about socialism. You can have an authoritarian socialist state. You can have a democratic socialist state. What you can't have, because socialism is a scale, one end of it is communism. Communism is a form of socialism. It's the most extreme form. And you cannot have a democratic communist state. Now, it's not that there's anything intrinsically, preventing a democratic communist state. It's just that because people aren't communists, they're not naturally communists. No democracy would ever accept communism. Like, even if you voted it in to give it a go, people won't like it. So that is why every communist state has ended up becoming a brutal authoritarian dictatorship. And then if it lasts, it doesn't even stay a communist state. China's not a communist state. China's capitalist. China is a capitalist state on steroids. Socialism is simply the belief that the state should manage the means of production. Now, that can mean literally controlling the means of production. And if it controls the means of all production, then that's communism. Or it could mean that the state manages the means of production that are not efficiently provided by the private sector, but where production is provided by the private sector, it's very tightly regulated. So basically, socialism is that the state has a nosy into all of the means of production. So like raising standards, things like, which is why I find it weird when people describe the EU as this neoliberal project. And it's like, well, at any one time, sure, there'll be neoliberal governments within the EU, and certainly neoliberal MEPs, but the EU drives up environmental standards and safety standards and consumer rights, and all of these things are socialism. But here it is. It is what it is. I wish people would use a dictionary more. We can't just make up our own words. Sometimes it's fun to make up words, but if you make up a word, you should at least make up a word, make it your own thing. If a word is already established, you should really use the commonly understood meaning. What's my views on AI? I think it's very good for some things, but I do think that needs regulating more heavily. I think it's like a lot of technology, including social media. We politicians have just allowed it to creep in without really looking at it and going, right, what's a beneficial use of it and what's a harmful use of it and what sort of grey area. And I would suggest certain technologies like social media, like AI, I think they're complex and important enough that you should have at the very least a specific minister who looks at them. But I would suggest they're important enough to lump with maybe a few other things and actually have a whole government department looking at them. But there we go. But yeah, so that is my view on AI. I'm not against it by any means at all, of course. And some of the arguments used against it are spurious and sometimes hypocritical. But at the same time, you know, when you're talking about AI, see, so give me I'll give you an example just to finish off with. So if you have AI making decisions on someone's behalf and then you're stuck with that decision, that's a dodgy use of it. I don't think we should do that. However, if you're going to get AI to go through a load of data and come up with something, and then a human looks at that and forms a decision based on it, that's different, because you've still got the person. Because AI, although it can, in theory, make better decisions than people, it's got parameters and it's not going to be perfect. Whereas, so yeah, that's what I would say. If you use it to work things out really quickly or come up with solutions or come up with suggestions or come up with decisions, that's fine. As long as a person looks at it and goes, I'll go with that. Whereas if it's just an automatic thing, no. But there it is. I'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Have a very good Christmas, everyone. We will be back on. I'll be back on Saturday. There's nothing particularly special about Saturday. So we'll have the stream on Saturday as normal. There will be a New Year's Eve stream as well. I'll probably do that at 7 p.m, which is the normal, I suppose, the normalish time for these streams. That'll be open to subscribers as well. The Saturday one will be members in the chat at normal. But thanks very much, everyone. Have a great Christmas. And until next time, I'll see you later.